Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is Dadvice TV Live. As a matter of fact, I think this is video number 182. Wow, I cannot believe all the great content out here helping you better understand kidney disease and hopefully improve your quality of life. Now, if you are new, welcome to the channel. Please go over to YouTube and click that little subscribe button. It really means a lot to me to see that number growing and growing and growing. More and more people who want to kick kidney disease to the curb. And if you are new, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is James. I have kidney disease, and I am not letting my kidney disease hold me back. I was diagnosed stage 5, but I worked very closely with my doctors and renal dietitians. The secret to kidney disease and getting control of it, managing it and getting rid of all those symptoms is working with a renal dietitian. Now I'm stage 3, but more importantly, I am symptom free, feeling great. I have come a long way, and so much of it was based on just learning about nutrition, learning how food isn't something to be afraid of. It's something still to enjoy. I just got to make better choices. Now, to help in making those better choices, it's a renal dietitian. They will help you not be afraid of food. You see an avocado, you don't got to duck for cover. You see a banana, don't go run into the hills. Those things can still fit in your renal diet, but you just may not be able to eat a whole lot of it, maybe just a little bit. Maybe you can eat even more. So let's get to talking about today's topic, a low phosphorus diet, which is something that's pretty common in the kidney community at certain stages for certain people. And to talk about that, we got us an expert. It's Tuesday, so you know who it is. It is renal dietitian Jen Hernandez. Go ahead and welcome Jen. Hey there, Jen. How you doing?
Hey James, I'm doing great. So good to be back again and really excited. I love talking about phosphorus. The renal dietitian nerd in me is coming out tonight. I'm really, really excited.
Awesome. Now,
So
tell the new ones about you and how they can learn more, because they're going to want to follow you on Facebook after tonight's conversation.
yeah, we definitely have a lot of things going on Facebook and Instagram too. My name is Jen Hernandez. I am a renal dietitian. So I'm a registered dietitian that's also board certified in renal nutrition. And this has come from my years in experience working with people, not only in dialysis, but also in earlier stages through the Kidney Foundation. And then right now in my own private practice, which is Plant Powered Kidneys. I work with people in the US privately with one-on-one consultations to help them analyze their kidney nutrition, their health goals, their labs, looking at all those things to help make the most impactful, beneficial changes when it comes to their kidney nutrition and kidney health. Then I also run the Plant Powered Kidneys 6-week program, which right now we are in week 4. I was just talking with somebody about it earlier today about all of the things that they're learning this week because we're talking about protein in week 4 of the course. And if you're interested in signing up, if you haven't yet looked into it, you can join the wait list at plantpoweredkidneys.com/course. Put your name and email in there and we will notify you the next time it opens, because we will be opening a new live launch this coming fall. So after those spring vacation, or sorry, summer vacations when everyone's out and about, we're going to get back into it in the fall. And then you can also join our amazing free and yet private Facebook group, Plant Powered Kidneys, where you can connect with thousands of other plant powered kidney warriors that are looking to eat more plants and focus on kidney health. It is a really great, very supportive community with a lot of wonderful people in there to give you different ideas of foods to cook. And then I'll jump in there and I also share some tips and comments as well in the group. So would be more than happy to have you there. You can also find me on Instagram at plant.power.kidneys. I will do Instagram lives from time to time, trying to get more consistent with that. But I do very frequently, when I do my lives, I'll have a guest come on and chat with me, whether it's another dietitian or a nephrologist, somebody in the renal community that we like to talk about kidneys. So feel free to find me on all those different avenues. The main place, my website, plantpoweredkidneys.com. That's the main hub for me.
Awesome. And for anyone out there who's new to kidney disease, you just got diagnosed, you're diagnosed fairly recently, the best thing you can do, and I know what it's like. I've been there. You are hoping to go find some secret pill that's going to make things better. Oh, those things don't exist. They're a waste of money. The best thing you can do is work with someone like Jen, a renal dietitian. They are life-changing. And if you're new to kidney disease, her program is an investment in your future, not only in your own health, but the way you look at food. When I was first diagnosed, I was afraid of everything. My first meals that first month were awful. As a matter of fact, my lab started looking worse in certain areas because I was cutting back way too much. And my doctor said, look, we're going to send you to a dietitian. She's going to teach you how to eat so you're not afraid of food, because I was afraid of everything. And it changed my life. I got my anemia under control, got my energy back. Now I feel like I can go anywhere and eat anything without worrying, because I understand, hey, that right there, if I want to have some of it, I'm only going to have a little tiny bit. It's not worth it. But if I eat that stuff over there, it's even better. And if you're worried about giving up meat, I still eat a little bit. I try my best to work as much plant-based foods into my diet, but I still let myself have some eggs or some chicken and stuff like that. And those of you that have been around a while, you know I've given up my ribeyes, haven't had one in forever, don't even miss them anymore. But it's all because of education, learning about what that does to my body and my kidneys. And I want to feel great. I want to be fantastic. So I encourage everyone, check out the program, check out the Facebook group.
Thanks. Yeah, James, you do such a great job being another supportive person in that group. And I will tell my clients, I tell people in the group, I mean, I will say it all the time. Your attitude and your mindset is crazy powerful, just so powerful. The people that I find that have the best results are the ones that have the most positive outlook. And I had a like I had a few clients today that are just the epitome of that positive attitude, and it shows in their lab results. It shows in how they
Mm-hmm.
feel. That I always ask, like, energy level, 1 to 10, where are you at? And they were like 9 and 8 today, feeling really good, but they're so positive. And I think that just, I don't think there's any there's not a concrete way to like say, oh, we can connect this, but I feel like it's kind of like this an unspoken connection. We know, like, mind
Mm-hmm.
over matter, that kind of thing. And being positive. I mean, James, I think that's a big part for you too, is you've been so positive, and that makes a big difference in the way your body will internalize and what it will manifest.
And I think it makes it easier having a positive
Hmm.
approach to things, to listen, to
Hmm.
hear, which is different than
Absolutely.
listening, and then to implement those things. If I was
Hmm.
Mr. Doom and Gloom, blah, 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 my doctor's like, cut sodium, I'd be like, yeah, I went to, but I'm like, hey, I'm going to do it, doc. I'm going to make my labs great. He challenges me. Let's get
Yeah.
this right here in the middle. Let's get your sodium right here. This is a little high. Right now, I'm battling some high uric acid. I'm going to get some labs, I think, tomorrow. And, I think I've got it down. I've been doing everything I can to get it where it needs to be. And if it's not, well, I just learned that what I did wasn't enough, and I'll try something else.
Right, right. Let's just shift the plan. Let's go to another option and keep working at it. Not giving up, but just let's just shift.
Yeah. So let's make a quick shift. People are like, James, you talk too much. I know, I just did a 10-minute intro. Sorry, guys.
I do the
But
same thing. I'll get tangential because we get so passionate about this stuff.
yeah,
We really
exactly.
feel strongly about it.
This is good stuff. We're real people, and this
Yes.
is live. If this wasn't live,
Yes.
we'd edit it all out. But you want to see the
That's
real
true.
stuff. So we are going to
That's
talk
true.
about a low phosphorus diet. And let's go to the beginning. Back up. What is phosphorus?
So, phosphorus is a mineral that's found in our body. It's actually the second most abundant mineral. The first is calcium, and phosphorus is after that. It is so important. It does so many things in our body. It is part of our bones, it's part of our teeth, it's even part of our DNA. It is very essential that we have phosphorus in our body. But the thing is that phosphorus is also seen as a uremic toxin. There is a very strong connection of phosphorus and kidney disease, and more specifically, kidney disease progression. So, in this situation, looking at it from the kidney disease side, this is where we start thinking about phosphorus and kidney health or kidney disease. We look at what's happening with the body, we look at what's happening with our kidney health. So, with kidney disease, this is over time not managed very well. There aren't very many studies looking at the early stages of CKD and phosphorus. And I'm saying early as in stages one, stage two, stage three, because it's kind of hard to be identifying when the phosphorus levels are still within range. We're not seeing a lot of weird numbers. But what happens in stage four, stage five, and especially in dialysis, that's when the phosphorus levels become imbalanced. And when there's this imbalance to phosphorus in the diet, or well, not just the diet, but phosphorus in the body, we'll talk a little bit more about that too. This is where the accumulation comes in. The kidneys can't get rid of it, the phosphorus accumulates, and this causes these complications. However, phosphorus is one of the silent killers of the silent killer that is kidney disease, and that many people go without any symptoms of having abnormal phosphorus levels. Some people do, but it's not a given. It's not an assumption of this is what's going to happen. So, typically, when you're looking at your phosphorus levels, the amount in your blood test results will be around 2.5 to 4.5. And you can see this result usually on the renal function panel. Sometimes your doctor might order it as a separate lab test, but if you have a renal function panel or if you're on dialysis and you get your monthly lab report, you'll see your phosphorus level on there. And speaking of dialysis, they do like to look at a slightly higher range in dialysis because phosphorus is really difficult to manage on dialysis. So they give some of a little bit of a slide or a little bit permission to go a little bit higher. So anywhere from 3, 5, even 5.5 is an acceptable, in some cases, an acceptable phosphorus level in your blood test results. Although when we're looking at something like 5.5, that's that top range. And even that, we can see benefits of being a little bit closer into the fours and even threes, even on dialysis.
That's interesting that kind of different ranges for on dialysis or not, but it makes sense because dialysis, I'm just going occasionally, if it's at home once a day and getting it filtered out of my blood. Where if I'm not on dialysis, I am relying 100% on my kidneys. So I can see why it would be lower for those of us
Yeah.
who are not on dialysis.
Yeah. I'll give you some more specific numbers about that later. We'll dive into that as far as like why. But that's really in a nutshell why it's so important, especially later on, is that dialysis is covering a fraction of what the kidneys had been doing 24/7, 365, nonstop.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not on dialysis, I'm eating. How much phosphorus does a person usually need in a day?
So the estimated average requirements, and this is just kind of the ballpark of what we need to have, is about 580 milligrams a day. But the recommended dietary intake, and this is for most, like 98% of healthy adults, is 700 milligrams. For pregnant women and children that don't have kidney disease, they're looking at 1,250 milligrams of phosphorus per day. This sounds, we talk about potassium, for example, and people think like 0 milligrams potassium, or they think 0 milligrams sodium. Again,
Oh,
this
I
is
made
not
that
the case.
mistake.
Yeah, yeah. So this is another scenario. Our bodies do still need it, but do you want to guess what the actual phosphorus intake is? I mean, I said this is how much we need.
Oh,
How much are people actually
okay.
consuming? And I'll say
Okay,
in
I have not
America.
seen the number. I have not seen the number. Those of you that are live, you can put your guess in the comments. I've not seen the number, but I know as a kidney patient from looking at food labels, seeing phos additives like crazy in
Hmm.
so many foods, I'm going to say it's double to triple what we should be eating. And if you tell me it's even higher, I will not be shocked.
Yeah, it's about 200%. It's 1,399 milligrams, so essentially double of the RDA. So the question of if we get enough phosphorus is not really the question. And in general, people can get this higher amount of phosphorus and be fine. Really specifically when it comes from natural foods, when it's organic
Mhm.
phosphorus, and we'll talk about that in a second. But again, this is not something that we're looking at, oh my gosh, like I've got to make sure I get enough, because we get enough. Don't worry, it's taken care of. We are not in that kind of scarcity issue. So
Yep.
just kind of push that out of your mind. We're looking at anywhere from 700 to 1,200 milligrams a day of phosphorus, assuming, and again, we're going to factor in the different types of phosphorus that you get and the sources from your diet.
And I was actually I've got a bunch of food here, guys, because Jen has an awesome app we're going to talk about to help you with phosphorus. And Sean had mentioned a comment. Phosphorus is not listed on the labels. Now, this one does list the potassium. This is an updated one.
Hmm.
But phosphorus is something that is not listed. So we got to be a little bit careful what the amount is. And that's where these
Yeah.
apps come in. If the food tracking apps, some of them will tell you how much phosphorus is in a serving. Just be careful. Read those labels. This is not mine, guys. This is my kids. This is a box of Girl Scout cookies. I grabbed it because it's purple. I had some Thin Mints with a green. I use a green screen so it became see-through. A serving size is 2 cookies. Okay, when I used to eat these, a serving size means like half a sleeve, not 2 cookies. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that's something we can't easily find right there on the labels.
And
Now if,
and
okay.
also, oh, I'll just add really quick. It isn't even that cut and dry. If they did put it on the label, we'll talk about those absorption rates here
Mhm.
in a little bit, but it's a very complicated type of calculation that you would have to make, even looking at the label. So looking at the nutrition label for phosphorus, if you do see it, maybe if it's something that is 100% like natural and no added phosphates, if it's something just like roasted cashews and
Mhm.
that's all that's in there, if it lists the phosphorus content, that can be a little bit easier to determine. But with a lot of these foods, if they have like I have a few examples here today. So this example has added phosphates, and it's chicken, which is also a type
Oh,
of
that's a
phosphorus.
shame. I love those little packets. I get the tuna ones and use those from time to time.
I told you I got this from my virtual dietitian conference, and I was like, this is great timing for food label reading.
Yeah. Now, if I
But
do get too much phosphorus, because that's probably where most people are going to fall, we're going to get too
mhm.
much because there's a lot of additives. It's not really a problem in the United States of not getting enough. What are some of the symptoms or problems I might encounter if I get too much phosphorus?
Well, the the thing is that a lot of people may not experience any symptoms. So it's going to be case to case. And if you do have phosphorus levels above 5.5, it's not a, oh, then it's okay, then it's fine. This is that silent killer part of it, unfortunately. And
Hmm.
I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I'd rather warn and give that information than be like, oh, don't worry about it. Like that's not my job. um, but for those symptoms, the most common one is itching, which we did talk about itching from
Yes,
another
we've talked
episode.
about that. That's a serious one, really.
It is. And people who have talked about this, that itching is like it can't stop. It is
Right.
just insatiable,
I
just
had that at
they
my
won't go away.
lowest kidney function, especially my bottom of my legs.
Hmm.
You cannot scratch that itch. You try, it's
Hmm.
not an itch that goes away. Creams at the best just slightly mask it, but you've got an underlying serious problem.
Right, right. And very often, because phosphorus is one of the hardest things. I mean, when I worked in dialysis, there wasn't a month, because every time you get monthly labs in dialysis, there wasn't a month that went by that I wasn't having a lot of conversations about phosphorus because um, it, let me see if I can remember back in my last clinic. Usually, like we would strive to try to get 70 or so percent of our patients to have good phosphorus.
Hmm.
That did not happen. It was closer to like 60 or so. It's a hard goal to achieve, especially as an entire clinic. So if you're on dialysis, you may or may not know that your clinic is being looked at as a clinic, as a group, to see those quality outcomes. And phosphorus is one of those things that they're looking at, that Medicare is looking at. So your phosphorus level is going to be really hard to control in dialysis, but that itching is incessant. It doesn't go away. But people who do work on controlling their phosphorus to get that down, they have reported better itching management, that they don't feel as itchy. Not every single time, because there's other factors, of course, but phosphorus is right away. That's the first thing I'm looking at when somebody
Hmm.
tells me that they're itchy.
Yep.
So
What are some other symptoms?
yeah, so other ones, the ones that really stand out for me are the joint bone pain, increased risk of bone fractures and bone breaks. Think about phosphorus where it's at. It's stored in the bones with calcium. So if you're having problems with phosphorus, it's gonna be affecting your bones. So those are some big ones. Also, itchy red eyes. I would have patients that would have like bumps and dots around their eyes because of this phosphorus that was literally coming through their skin, pushing
Yep.
through their skin because it was so much in their body. And we would see the little white bumps on their arms. It's not pleasant. It's really, really not pleasant. Again, not everybody experiences this, but it can happen. And then all the GI side effects, nausea, constipation, vomiting, diarrhea, those can all happen because of abnormal phosphorus.
Yeah. And that's if it's too high. What about
Mm-hmm.
if, for some reason I overdo it, which
Mm-hmm.
is a common thing, people. Um, we kind of think, oh, this is bad. Let's cut it to zero. That's not the right answer. We got to be careful because we can still have
Mm-hmm.
problems. What if people cut way too far back on phosphorus, and now my level is too low?
Well, you can experience really the same problems. Again, if you're not getting enough phosphorus, then it's going to be your body's going to be looking for phosphorus. And so it's going to be hunting bones. It's going to be hunting where your phosphorus is stored. But I will say a low phosphorus level, super, super, super rare. Like super rare. I rarely, even people who feel like they've pulled back on everything and they're really, really closely monitoring it, usually it just falls into range. The ones that I see that are actually low phosphorus are the ones who aren't eating. So, talking about the ones who are super, super sick, maybe in the hospital or in a long term
Mm,
care facility, unable to feed themselves sometimes, those are the situations where we have to do like a tube feeding. And dietitians also do prescriptions for tube, well, recommendations to the doctor for the tube feeding prescriptions. Those are the people that we would see that have a low, super low phosphorus level. I don't typically see it. If I did see it in some cases of somebody who was, feeling good and doing really well, chances are they probably were on a high phosphorus binder dose and then also cutting back on their phosphorus food, which just means that they don't have to take so much medication, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and I could see it being extremely rare because it's in so many things. Not only do we have it kind of overused as an additive, but it does naturally appear in a lot of foods. And that's where that absorption rate really comes into being an important factor, because if it's natural phosphorus or artificial phosphorus, they're not absorbed the same. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so there are two different kinds of phosphorus. So, excuse me, first we have organic phosphorus. Now, organic phosphorus is the kind of phosphorus you're not going to find in the ingredient list. This is organic phosphorus coming naturally from foods. So just like we organically, we have phosphorus in our bodies because it does a lot of things. Animals and some plants will have phosphorus in them as well because it is a natural organic compound. This is where we start getting into the stickier side of things with this idea of what's called phosphorus bioavailability. So this first one, we have organic phosphorus. It is not absorbed 100% like inorganic phosphorus. Now, inorganic phosphorus is the kind that you find on a food label when you look at the ingredient list. And I'm not talking about the nutrition facts where you see calories, fat, carbohydrates, fiber, protein, even potassium now. That is the nutrition facts. I'm talking about what's below or next to it, the ingredients. And you have to look specifically in that area to find it.
I'm going to see if I can get it info. Yes, that area down
Yep.
there.
Yep. And you can see it. I can read it from here.
Oh, yeah.
Monocalcium phosphate.
Yeah, you can see it right there at the very bottom. Whoops.
Yes. Yes. So
This is
that's
Girl
what
Scout
you want
cookies.
to look. Yeah. Well, this is going to be okay. This is the episode where Jen's the Debbie Downer. That's basically what this episode. That's the second title, because I'm sorry to say, like you said, James, like phosphorus additives are used so frequently, so much, and there are groups that are advocating to eliminate it because the fact that we do see the excessive use of phosphorus being put into things and that it can be potentially harmful, not even just for people with CKD, but even outside of that. James, do you remember, and this is a little tangential, but there was an article that came out maybe 5 years ago about Diet Coke and bone health.
Oh, yes. I remember.
Yeah.
and I actually remember that thinking like, oh, I'm lucky I drink Dr. Pepper. But I remember it was the news loved running the story because it's like, hey, Coke's so popular. People drink the Diet Coke.
Yeah. So the thing in part behind that, Diet Coke has phosphoric acid, just like regular Coke has phosphoric acid. So this phosphorus additive has been seen as a bad thing to have. So there are groups that are pushing to have it at least like a warning label or something to be on the front to say like no phosphate additives as like a bonus or something like that. But it's a really hard thing to push when there's so many things that are already on the label that already have requirements.
And
So
phosphate,
it's
a lot of
like,
those
all right,
additives
get in line.
are used to extend the shelf life. So it saves the companies money. And it's going to be hard for them to make the food closer to natural, more healthy, more nutritious, because it's going to cost them money. So I could see them fighting back against it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And kind of justifying it in a weird way of whatever they would do. So yeah, that's kind of the thing about the inorganic phosphorus. You're going to find it in the ingredient list, not in the nutrition label, and it can be disguised. It might not look so obvious, but the key to finding it is looking for PHOS.
Yep.
So phosphoric acid, that was one that I used for the example of soda. Very, very common in soda. James, yours had, I think it was monosodium phosphate or
Monocalcium phosphate.
Monocalcium phosphate. See, there's so many structures of it,
I'm
but
looking to see if there's any other
PHOS.
phosphates in here. Yeah. So when I
Okay.
first got started, a quick tip that my doctor gave me, real quick, he says, and I was still in the ICU. I was getting out. He says, "Okay, you got
Hmm.
to cut back on phosphorus. I want you to look at labels. Look for PHOS. It's going to be in a word. It's hidden. If
Hmm.
I see it two or more times anywhere in the label, put it back. Don't buy
Hmm.
it. If I saw it once in the first half of the ingredients, put it back. Don't buy it." That was kind of my
Hmm.
quick little. I'm going to help you today. You got to learn how to look for this, but just look for that PHOS. And I remember leaving the hospital, going to Target across the street so I can get my prescriptions filled, and getting food and grabbing these labels, and like Phos was on there like so many times on a package. It's like,
Hmm.
everything in a box seemed to just have it so many times. It was easy to find.
Yeah. Yeah, and I when I make the recommendation, I'm a bit more strict than your doctor would be. I say don't have it at all because even if it's on the lower part of the box, this inorganic phosphorus is absorbed 100%
Mm-hmm.
into your body. And this is something that you think, oh, it's just a little bit, but 100 pennies can still equal a dollar. Like it doesn't matter if it's a little bit, it can still accumulate. And that's what we need to avoid because this is something that can really creep up. And it's a great habit to be practicing the sooner the better. Even in early stages, I said the research for early CKD is very limited for low phosphorus diet, but phosphorus additives we know are just not good
Mm-hmm.
and they can advance CKD. So it's the additives we really, really want to focus on avoiding. Um, and yeah, it's chances are like, and even if you find something that doesn't have phosphorus additives in it, don't get into this comfortable, oh, I can always grab this and assume that it's going to be okay, because companies can change their ingredients, they can change the
Yes.
product without notice. They might say like new and improved, but they don't have to. So it's an important thing to just kind of spot check every now and then because they can change it and you might not know that you're getting in phosphate additives.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, on that note, there a lot of people say, "Hey, you can drink root beer. It's one of the few dark sodas you can have because it
Hmm.
doesn't contain phosphorus." But there are some brands that do,
Hmm.
and I was looking at maybe using root beer to help wean me off of Dr. Pepper, but I did end up just going straight to water. But I remember looking, and my wife had some here at the house, and I looked, and I can't remember what brand it is, but it did not have phosphorus. Like, okay, I'm going to buy some of this at the grocery store. I went there, and the can was newer. That one did have, but it's the exact same brand. It's just something where they made a change to the formula and they added it probably to extend the shelf life of it and make
Hmm.
it taste better longer. And they don't have to tell you that they added
Right.
that. They just add it to the ingredients. So it's important, even if you know something, you're like, hey, this doesn't have it, keep checking the label. They might add it. So you want to keep an eye on that over time.
Yeah, that's a really good example of something because I hear root beer a lot for like, oh, this is a good option. It may be a good option. We can't say guaranteed for sure because they can change it. So you definitely, again, want to practice reading those labels, get into the habit of it, and it's going to really, really help save your kidneys. It's so, so important.
Yep. Now, who should consider a low phosphorus diet?
So the late stages, stage 4 and stage 5, this might be an area that you want to focus on. For sure, the additives, looking to eliminate those is going to be helpful. You might see your phosphorus levels a little bit higher above that 4.5 in stage 4, stage 5. I've had clients that maybe had higher phosphorus to begin with, and then we did some dietary changes. They were able to come off of phosphorus binders, and we were able to focus on a better kind of a modified low phosphorus diet, or in some cases, not even worry about it at all. But what's really important, and we mentioned in the beginning, people on dialysis. If you are on dialysis, there is no way. I'm really sorry to say this, there is no way that you will be able to dialyze enough phosphorus out of your body. The hemodialysis treatments, so the ones where you go to the center, you sit in a chair, and you have a 4 hour, on average, a 4 hour treatment. For those of you that have 3 hours, be surprised it's not four, because 4 hours is the standard treatment time. In a standard 4 hour treatment time, you will be getting about 300, 600 up to 1200 milligrams of phosphorus eliminated in a treatment. So right away you're thinking, oh, okay, well, that's going to get rid of the majority of the phosphorus that I'm eating. That's only for the one day. Then you have your off dialysis day. So then you have a day that you're eating, you're getting in a whole new round of phosphorus, again, potentially 200%, because people on dialysis are also encouraged to eat protein, and protein is a source of phosphorus. Again, animals, we have phosphorus in our cells naturally. Even animal meats, even if they're 100% natural, no additives, they still have phosphorus. There we go. They have phosphorus that is absorbed. About 60% of that phosphorus is still coming into the body. So you have an off day of dialysis, you're getting more phosphorus in, and then you have a day of dialysis that's only taking out, again, a fraction. So the dialysis covers some of it, but it's not going to be covering all of it. So you want to do your best to follow a low phosphorus diet, but this is where many people will get phosphorus binders prescribed to help cover that extra amount. So in particular, people who are late stage and on dialysis. People who have a kidney transplant, though, are actually kind of on the opposite side, where you might be encouraged to eat more phosphorus. Now, this is not a free-for-all of all of the phosphorus additives. That is not what we're looking at. Basically, what we're looking at is more healthy, organic phosphorus sources. So going back to having a whole foods diet, still doing a lot of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, all of that kind of stuff. It is not an opportunity to put more additives back in.
Yeah. So who should not be on a low phosphorus diet? And we kind of touched on that earlier. It sounds like higher stages probably don't have to worry as much about it.
Yeah. So there's no randomized clinical trials, as in they're just going to see what the results come out with. They're not going to mess with different situations. There isn't the research to show somebody who has a GFR over 60 is going to benefit from a phosphorus restricted diet. Again, when I'm talking about a phosphorus restricted diet, we're talking about like even those natural organic sources, cutting back on those or being careful with those. We're talking about everybody across the board should not be having phosphorus additives. But in earlier stages, you might not need to worry about some of those things that you come across online where they say, I hate this. I used this earlier, and this is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Oh, just have white rice instead of brown rice. Like, that is the worst thing.
And I understand where people are coming from. The information out there is so wrong and so bad, and it's repeated. So it's easy to fall in the trap of taking advice from Dr. Google and Nurse Facebook with no education whatsoever behind them and getting that bad information. That just, as I've learned so much, it just emphasizes the importance of working with someone like you to understand, okay, this is what I can, and people, it's eye-opening. You're going to be like, wait, you mean I can eat that? I thought it said no. And I have seen the most wrong post out there.
The number of times that I'll have to be like, okay, Jen, keep it together.
Yeah, I can't go on the other Facebook groups, the other kidney groups. I can't go in there because it's just one wrong thing after another. And it's like, I can't write this over and over and over again.
Yeah, same here. Can't happen. Well, that's why I made plant-powered kidneys. I'm like, okay, we need something that's a little more up on the information.
Now, so what are some of these high phosphorus foods that I probably need to start, or, I'm a person that says, hey, you know what? I need to start watching my phosphorus. What are some of those foods I probably should be keeping an eye out on and limiting, or maybe even not including even in my diet?
Well, there are a few of these groups that we can really kind of hone in on when it comes to being careful with phosphorus. Number one, you guys probably aren't surprised, but the packaged, these processed foods, anything that comes, yeah, this kind of stuff that comes in a package, just think that it's going to have added phosphorus. And case in point, this one does. So this is something that you want to start looking at. So in the Plant Powered Kidneys course, one of the homework assignments I give students is to go check their pantry and to scour, to
Oh,
look
that's
for
scary.
anything they
I
can
did that
find.
once.
Yeah,
It's scary.
yeah. But it's so eye-opening. It's so like you realize the things that are in there, like I had no idea, and I've been
Hmm.
eating this every week, and like we keep this stocked all the time. But the more that you are investigating, the more you're going to be protecting your kidneys, and the more you'll understand too. Because then if you see your phosphorus is high, well, then it's like, oh, that makes sense because I just found like 20 things that have added phosphates in them.
Hmm.
And then when you look at getting rid of those, replacing them with the ones that the food items that don't have added phosphorus, and then your phosphorus level comes down and it's better. And then you're like, okay, that makes sense. This all is connecting the dots. So, very, very first thing, uh, processed packaged foods, and then kind of going into that same content or that same contents or line is drinks because they're another kind of packaged thing.
Yeah,
Drinks
they're for the
are,
most part they're a bunch of chemicals
yeah,
in a in a bottle with some fizz.
yes, exactly. And I'm not even talking about just sodas. Like we think that's our first go-to, but some of the Crystal Light drinks have added phosphorus.
Oh, mhm.
Some of the Mio squeeze bottles,
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of
the
those have added
little flavor
phosphorus.
things. I've seen those.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so tedious. When I first got into peritoneal dialysis, I had a project. I went and I spent, I kid you not, like an entire week in the grocery store reading labels, taking pictures of food, and I made a binder database for my patients of like, these are the foods that are okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's when we look through every single Crystal Light packet to find these are the ones that are going to be okay, but not all of them. So think of those kind, even Sunny D. I had a patient who had a hard time with phosphorus. He was drinking Sunny D at every dialysis treatment. Hawaiian Punch
Oh,
is another one. Yeah, some of the bottled or canned coffee drinks are going to have it as well. Even some of the bottled water. Yes, some bottled waters do have added phosphorus.
oh. Luckily, I'm too cheap for bottled water. I drink good old Ohio Tap. Mm.
Yeah, it's something that is just again we can't say just like the root beer we can't say oh this category is going to be safe because we don't know. There's so many options even down to specific brands. It could be like the sweetened version has added phosphorus, but then the unsweetened version is okay, or vice versa.
Yep.
Very, very specific. Like this flavor has it and this flavor doesn't.
Well, just like your
I was
Crystal
just
Light
talking,
example, not all
yeah.
of them had it, but you found some that did. So we can't just assume that, hey, these Girl Scout cookies are okay. And that's a bad example because I don't think any of them are okay. There's a whole process. Maybe these ones are also okay, but they aren't.
Yeah, it's very much we have to check the individual thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do like what I did. You don't have to go through and comb through the entire grocery store looking at every single label, but start with just what you gravitate towards. Start with your go-tos. Start with the things that are most common in your diet already and see if those items do have added phosphates. That's what's going to be the most impactful. It's not going to it's not going to benefit your time to go check labels of stuff that you would never get in the first place. So don't worry about that.
Exactly.
Focus on what you have in your kitchen, in your pantry, in your freezer, anywhere like that. So speaking of freezer, we're also looking at another group of products that might have added phosphorus, and that's animal meats. So this in particular I was talking about on a live on Facebook this morning about this topic. Even at the butcher counter, it may not be fresh. It could be
Mhm.
from frozen. And when it's from frozen, there is a good chance that it had added phosphates. Two products that are really notorious for this are shellfish and pork. Those I have had a hard time finding that don't have some kind of thing injected into it. Frozen shrimp, I don't even, I mean, I haven't checked for them for a long time now, but when I had, they all had added phosphates. So animal meats may have organic, well, they do have organic, and then they also may have inorganic as well. The organic phosphorus that's in there is absorbed about 60 to 80%. So that's going to be something that might have a bigger impact. And again, kind of not to brag, but the plant powered kidneys thing, we got it going on because focusing on plants, these are not sources of phosphorus in the diet. So that is a nice benefit of focusing on more plants in the diet.
Yeah,
So,
and I used to have a restaurant, my wife and I, and when we looked at providers of food, it was shocking the ingredients because we wanted to have stuff
mhm,
that worked for people with celiac disease. We wanted people that had gluten tolerances. We wanted to be able to provide food that fit all the key groups of customers, and it
mhm,
was just shocking. It's things that I would think, okay, this was purchased. We purchased a giant chunk of something, a meat product, and they would tell me, no, we inject it with it. They're honest when you're buying lots of stuff for a restaurant. Oh yeah, we do this to plump it up, and this is added, and sodium, and blah 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 blah. Inside of stuff that you wouldn't think about. You're like, no,
yeah,
that's meat. That's not supposed to be
yeah,
full of stuff, but it is. They do it to make it larger, the color, the texture. It's
mhm,
shocking.
yeah, yeah. So, and if you ask somebody at the butcher counter, they may or may not know. I've had very confident responses and I've had very in unconfident, lack of confident responses. They don't always know because
Mhm.
sometimes the person you're asking there, they're not part of that process like you were part of that process for your
But
restaurant.
we were just
So,
we were highly sensitive because we had
mhm,
big clients. We were in Seattle. We had Google, Microsoft, all the video game places, Amazon, and they wanted evidence. They wanted like almost like a certificate of what was in the food. If it was going to be gluten free, everything had to be gluten free. Also, the process of handling it. So we got that all from the vendors for everything, and it was not something that was common for
yeah.
a person, a customer to ask for to get that. So it makes sense. You go to the deli counter, it's turkey. Here's turkey. I'm going to slice it up. It's turkey. It's good turkey. That's kind of going to be their attitude about it. They don't know exactly what's in it when they got it
Mhm.
from Boar's Head or something like that. And Boar's Head's a brand I actually like. I just mentioned them because I like their brand. It's very close to fresh, like unmodified, which is what we loved about it.
Mhm. Well, there are some brands that you can find that don't have the additives, and that might be something that can work for you. But make sure that you're just at least checking and understanding what you are putting in, because when you get those lab results, when you look at that blood test result and your doctor or your dietitian says, "What's going on with your phosphorus?" You don't want to say you don't know. You want to be aware of what's going on and giving yourself a good idea of how your number got to where it's at.
Well, that also makes eating out much more difficult. You don't know
Hmm.
where, if you went out and you were eating something that, like chicken, you don't know what's in that chicken.
Yeah.
So another reason, load up on the veggie side, the plant side.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we did talk, I mean, we're definitely due to do kind of a refresh, but we have talked about fast food and kidney disease. And if you guys know my blog from before about fast food, I do have a tip in there about how you can look up information for nutrition, especially online when you're kind of planning ahead. That you can do that Control F or that Command F feature on certain websites for your restaurants to help potentially identify foods that have or don't have added phosphorus. So another one really quick, I know we're coming up. We had
Yeah.
so much to talk about. I
And
knew
we
it.
were
I
going to
knew
try
it.
to do two blog
I knew
topics in
it.
one tonight.
Oh, leave it to us. Okay, but the one other kind of group that I want to add into here is the leavened bread. And the reason I want to bring this up is because this thing of baking powder and baking soda. I
Hmm.
usually have to say them combined to help my brain split them apart. So we've talked about baking, let's see, we've talked about baking soda as something that some people take. It's not advised to take unless under the direction of your doctor because it's super high in sodium. Baking powder, however, is basically phosphorus. So if you are looking at your ingredient list and you see baking powder on that, sometimes they may or may not break down the nutrition information of the baking powder, but it's basically phosphorus. So Davita does have a phosphorus-free baking powder recipe. I have it up on my Instagram, I know, and I'm probably going to have to put it back up again sometime soon since we're talking about phosphorus now. But check the labels for baking powder to see if that is in there because that is another source of added phosphorus. Um, those are the big things to look out for when it comes to phosphorus and phosphorus additives.
Now, since we are getting close to the top of the hour, and guys, we're gonna keep covering more of this. Jen does have a list in the blog post, which is available on plantpoweredkidneys.com. There's also a link below in the description. It's the very first link when you scroll down in the description, you start reading it, which list foods that are low in phosphorus. It's massive. There is so much stuff we would run out of time and not even be able to talk through it all. But there's a great list there, a lot of different categories of things that are low in phosphorus, and I encourage everyone to go check out the blog. And also another thing, when you are at the blog, if you have a question, you can post it below the blog, and Jen will see
Yeah.
it. So that's a great
Yes, and
place
I
because
do.
it's hard to
Yeah,
post
we
those
do
in
respond to
Facebook. They
them.
get buried.
They do. They do. I try to keep up with Facebook comments, but there is absolutely no way. And I don't even get all my Facebook comments, to be honest. Like, I don't feel like Facebook is going to, I know that I don't get all the alerts. But if you comment directly on the blog, I do see that. I do get a notification, so I can respond to that.
Yep. Now you mentioned binders, and binders are for when I'm on a low phosphorus diet, but my phosphorus is still too high. Can you talk a little bit about binders?
Yeah, so we could definitely do a whole nother hour talking about binders, but we'll cram as much as we can into here. So phosphorus binders are a prescribed medication. This is not something that you would just decide to take just because you were worried about your phosphorus. For one, most of them are prescriptions. The ones that are over the counter are not going to be strongly advised anymore. So really quickly, the different kind of groups of phosphorus binders. We have calcium based, we have magnesium based, aluminum based, and then there's iron and then there's like the rest of them, the non-calcium, non-metal based. So the old school traditional has been for such a long time has been calcium based binders. But in the recent years, research has shown that people with CKD have a tendency to accumulate the calcium, kind of like the phosphorus. Again,
Hmm.
best friends always go together. So the recommendations now and moving forward are to not use calcium based binders in most cases. There are a few that may be appropriate, but that will be determined by your healthcare practitioner, by your doctor, your dietitian. If you're on dialysis, will also provide some insight and recommendations for your binders. But calcium based are the older ones. So over the counter example would be Tums. So some people are told to take Tums with their food or just before their food to help with phosphorus binding.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not saying go out and get Tums because there's a risk of too much calcium in the body. So this is not the answer. The answer is to talk with your dietitian or your doctor about your phosphorus and if you need binders. But there are some other calcium based ones, Foslo, Foslira, calcium acetate, all very common. And even when I was working in dialysis, I was really, really focused on trying to transition as many of my patients off of those medications as possible because there is such a thing as too much calcium. Our bodies are not meant to take in so much calcium. And these binder doses could be anywhere from one with each meal to like I've seen 4, 5, 6 of these capsules or these medications with each meal. So the dose can be quite high. And for a calcium-based medication, that can be a lot of calcium into the system. So those
Mm-hmm.
ones are the old school ones, not ideal, but they're the most affordable. So sometimes, and many doctors, many nephrologists, again, this has been something embedded in medical history for years. Many of them do kind of go to that one as the first line of defense. Even some insurances do require a trialing of those kinds of medications before being approved for a different one. So there are some other ones
Interesting.
that, yeah, it's a whole game. I can't even tell you like the number of times when I would work with a patient and I would say, just tell me when your stomach hurts and we'll take you off of it, because the most common side effects with phosphorus
Oh,
binders is GI upset. So basically, it was a matter of time before there was some kind of issue with them, and I just needed for the insurance, I needed to have documentation of we know this isn't going to be a good idea.
yeah. You at
So
least tried it.
exactly. We tried it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not. But sometimes, again, we've talked about insurance and the things with that before. Sometimes our hands are tied. Sometimes your doctor's hands are tied. So there's only so much that we can do in some of those cases. But there are other types of binders that are available. Some of them, we have Renvela, Renagel, Orexia, Fosrenal, Velphoro, Fosrenal. Those are some of like the bigger ones, the most common ones that are prescribed. There's a new one that is coming down the pipeline, should be coming out later this year, that is supposed to be the size of a Tic Tac, which a regular phosphorus binder is closer to the size of a hot tamale that you're supposed to swallow. And you're supposed
Oh,
to
it sounds
swallow
like my
like four to
CoQ10
five.
pill.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, but I
basically.
only got to swallow one.
So imagine taking four of those
Oh,
before each meal.
it's an appetizer.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is. And that's why phosphorus binders they compose about 50% of the pill burden that people have. People on dialysis take an average of 19 pills per day, and phosphorus binders
Oh,
account for about half of those. So phosphorus binders are very, very common in dialysis, but focusing on that low phosphorus diet and avoiding as many ideally all phosphorus additives, that is going to be so crazy helpful for you in controlling your phosphorus and potentially reducing the number of binders that you would need to take. Might not get rid of them entirely, but even going from like 4 to 2 or something would be pretty
yep.
nice to get rid of less pills.
Yep. Now, before we run out of time, there is an app for phones.
Yes.
Let's talk about that because, first of all, it's rare to have an app for kidney patients. So
Hmm.
let's make sure people know about it. Let's help people find it and install it. And I got it
So
right there on my
the
phone. Let's see if it'll
I have mine
focus.
too. I have mine too. Well, mine's already, you can see me on my camera.
Phos
I already have it
Filter.
open. Yes, it's Phos Filter, PHOS, those four letters. So Phos Filter, you can find it on the Apple App Store. And the dietitian, her name is Greta. She runs Lorelei Nutrition. She has created it, and they just announced that it's available on the Google App Store as well. So it should be good for both phones. You download it, it gives you this camera,
I've
and
got something
basically,
here. I'm going to scan
let
the
me see if I
barcode on
can,
mine.
wait a minute. Let me see if
Oh,
I can do this
it's
backwards.
walking me through the
I don't think I
tutorial.
can.
Skip. There we go. I did this earlier. There we go. So I'm going in there. I'm scanning the barcode. Now it is
Let's see.
free, so it's gonna show
Yeah.
an app. You just got to watch a little ad or show an ad that way. And this one, good news, and it's green. No phosphorus found. Now we saw. Oh, you got a red. We can see the
Yeah.
phosphorus hidden in that ingredients on this. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna scan my kids' Samoa's coconut cookies. Not something I would eat. You guys missed the animations. Red would not use, possible match. And yes, there is added phosphorus in that. We saw it right there. So that's an app. It's free. Go
Hmm.
get it. Put it on your phone. If you're not sure about a food, you can use the app, scan the food, and it can help you to know right away, maybe good, maybe bad, definitely good, definitely bad.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is really helpful. It is a very new app, so it's not been out for very long. But this is a great colleague dietitian. I actually met her through Instagram, so we talk all the time on Instagram and share information there. But definitely download it and give her feedback because she can work on improving it. So it's free, which means you get ads. That's the cost of free. But it's Phos Filter. There you go.
Yep.
So it's Phos Filter.
PHOSFILTER.
Yep.
There it is.
And it's
free.
It gives you a little tutorial. Yeah, once you log into it. So that is going to be something that hopefully will help in doing some scanning, maybe for things that are really, really short that you don't need a scan for. You can read them faster. But if it's a pretty long list, or if you're having some, maybe your eyesight.
Hey, if you're going
really
through your
good.
pantry, just start scanning stuff. Do 2 piles. Good.
There you go.
Not good.
Yeah, the stuff to keep and the stuff to donate. That's what I tell my clients. Let's just donate that.
And I want to address one question real quick. I think it was Nancy asked. Nancy said, "Hey, can you do a show on vitamin D?" We have one, yes, and we just did it fairly recently. If you go to dadvicetv.com, that's the website for Dadvice TV. Up in the top, there's a search. You type vitamin D, it will come up the very first result. We talked about vitamin D and fat-soluble vitamins. We talked about, there's another video with vitamin A. Oh, so much good stuff here about vitamins and vitamin D. So we've got something that you can check out. So much great information out there on dadvicetv.com. You can also, for all of Jen's videos, at the top, hit her picture's on the homepage. You'll see her, round one with her and all the other professionals that come on here. Click her picture and you'll see all of her videos. I think this is now video number 51 or 52 that we've done together. We've done a lot. So much great information out there.
Yeah. And it's always so much fun. We always have a great time talking about this stuff and sharing information with you guys too.
Yep. And I want to encourage you guys, if you haven't done so already, go on over to Facebook, plantpoweredkidneys.com, sign up. Great groups, so positive and supportive. You're not going to find all the fake stuff telling you, don't even look at an avocado, your eyes are going to explode or anything like that. No. You're going to find great ideas, suggestions from other people living with kidney disease. And even if you still eat meat, you don't have to be 100% vegan to go in there. There's still great information to help you. I am a vegan in the making. Okay. I still have some animal products here and there, but I've greatly limited it. I don't miss things because of what I've learned for variety, mixing things and how to use different spices and different things for textures. It's amazing. So I encourage everyone to go check out the Plant Powered Kidneys Facebook group. Also, this is a blog post we just went through of Jen's. She has one about what we talked about today and an entire blog post about binders. So if you want to learn more about binders, go over to plantpoweredkidneys.com. There's also a link down below in the description, and check out the blog post. So much information, including list of foods that you can look at, including on your diet, that are low in phosphorus. All right, we went a little bit over, but I want to thank you, Jen, for being here, and thank everyone out there. Please subscribe over on YouTube. I'd appreciate that. Otherwise, I'll see all of you in the next video. Bye, everyone.